Have you ever looked around and just wondered why some of the smartest people you know, maybe even you, are struggling with money? It's a really frustrating question, right? We're taught our whole lives that being smart is the ticket to success, but for so many people, that's just not how it plays out. Okay, let's get right into it with a number that is just staggering. Studies have shown that a whopping 70% of people with IQs over 130 never build any real wealth. 70%! Think about that. They have this massive intellectual horsepower, but they're not winning the financial game. This kind of makes you question the whole idea of smart. What's the point if it doesn't get you what you want? Maybe the only intelligence test that actually matters is this. Are you getting what you want out of life? It's not about a score. It's about the results you're actually getting. So let's dive into why this happens. We can call it the smart person's paradox. And it all starts with a huge fundamental misunderstanding of what the game of wealth is even about. It really boils down to two completely different mindsets. The smart but poor person is playing defense. Their whole strategy is built around avoiding poverty. They optimize to not lose. But the smart and rich, they play offense. They're optimizing to win. They are actively looking for the path to get rich. It's a subtle shift, but it changes everything. And here's the real kicker. Because smart people are so good at spotting risks, they can give you this brilliant 5-point lecture on all the ways you could lose money in stocks or real estate or by starting your own business. What they don't see is that those risky things are the exact vehicles other people are driving to get wealthy. They've become PhDs in sideline sitting. And that leads us right into the next huge issue, this massive gap between knowing a thing in theory and actually doing it in the real world. This is so critical. See, there's declarative knowledge. That's knowing about something. You can explain compound interest like a textbook. Then there's procedural knowledge. That's knowing how. You're actually earning that compound interest. You can read 100 books on leadership, but procedural knowledge means people are actually following you when things get tough. Life and the market, they only reward what you do. It's like they say, you just can't steer a parked car. And that's the problem with overanalyzing everything to death. While the smart person is sitting in the driveway, mapping out every possible route and debating the traffic patterns, somebody else is already on the highway. They're making mistakes, sure, but they're learning, and they're moving. This is such a dangerous trap to fall into. It's confusing potential with actual accomplishment. That little voice that says, oh, I could build a business like that if I really wanted to. Here's the thing. The world doesn't care. It doesn't pay for your potential. It only pays for proof, for what you've actually done. All right, now we're getting into the psychological stuff, the traps that are so easy to fall into, especially when your whole identity is tied up in being smart. Let's talk about the ego and entitlement trap. I absolutely love this quote. Think about it. From a young age, smart people get rewarded for just having the right answer. It builds this subconscious belief that success should be handed to you. So when you get out into the real world and it doesn't work that way, that sense of entitlement just sours into bitterness and resentment for the people who are succeeding. And the ego creates another huge blind spot. Smart people often kind of look down on soft skills, things like sales, communication, persuasion. They see them as flimsy or less important than hard technical skills. Well, guess what? The market completely disagrees. The World Economic Forum found that 8 out of the 10 highest paying skills are soft skills. To just ignore them is a massive financial error. And if your whole identity is built on being the smartest person in the room, what is your absolute biggest fear? Looking stupid. And that fear is paralyzing. It stops you from asking for help, from finding a mentor, from just admitting, I don't know. All the things you have to do to actually grow. So, as you can imagine, all these mindsets and psychological traps, they lead directly to some deeply flawed strategies that can keep you stuck for, years, sometimes decades. This quote just perfectly captures the sunk cost fallacy. The smarter you are, the better you are at explaining away your own bad decisions. You'll stay in a job you hate or a business that's failing, not because you think it's going to turn around, but because your ego is on the line. You built that ship, and you'll go down with it before you admit it's sinking. And you see this cycle play out over and over. You pour your time, your money, your reputation into something. Then, when the cracks start to show, instead of cutting your losses, you use that big brain of yours to rationalize it. You tell yourself a story about why it's still a good idea. And then you double down, throw in good money after bad. Now, here's another sneaky one. It's called the cognitive effort bias. Smart people often love that feeling of friction, that little dopamine hit they get from figuring something out on their own. So they'll spend 3 hours wrestling with some website bug, which is like a $10 problem, instead of just paying a freelancer $20 to fix it in 15 minutes, which would free them up to do $100 an hour work. At the end of the day, this is the hard truth you have to accept. You can fall in love with how complex your solution is or how much effort you poured in. The market does not care. It's brutally efficient. It only rewards the outcome. It rewards speed, clarity, and scale. A simple thing that works is always going to beat a complicated thing that's smarter. Okay, so after looking at all these traps, you might be feeling a little down. But what's the path forward? If you're a smart person and you feel stuck, what's the answer? Well, the solution isn't to be less smart. It's about adding a whole new set of tools to your toolbox. The goal is to become what you could call a limitless individual. This is someone who takes that high intellect and very deliberately pairs it with a real practical understanding of how money, sales, and business actually work in the real world. They learn the rules of the game they're actually trying to win.
And this, right here, this is the ultimate combo. This is when your intelligence becomes a true superpower. Your smart brain is the engine that finds the solutions, that invents the better mousetrap. But it's your business brain that knows how to build the factory, how to market it, and how to get it into the hands of millions.
And that's really what it all boils down to. That amazing brain of yours can be your greatest asset, or it can be your biggest cage. You can use it to build a massive library filled with 1,000 perfectly logical reasons why you shouldn't do something. Or you can point it at the world, take action, and actually build the life you say you want. The choice, really, is up to you.